Welcome to Perception versus Reality Sports and Culture, where we cover sports from a different angle and bring you topics most podcasts and radio shows will not cover. I'm your host, Rodney870, and welcome my co-hosts, Neely, Mr. Sports IQ, Lemuel, aka Lemwood, and Stanley, known on Instagram as Third World 870. Please enjoy this PvR clip and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, welcome back to PvR Sports. We're going to cover our next topic for this week. We're going to talk about Zion Williams, the power forward, small forward, whatever you want to call him, the do it everything freak guy, the freak, yeah, the American freak. They got the Greek freak, we got the American freak, and Zion Williams. He injured his knee against North Carolina when he I guess you could say, bust out of his Nike shoes, blew the Nike shoes out, and damn near tore his knee up, which was scary for everybody. I was sitting at home watching; it was totally scary for me. I thought it was a serious injury the way he fell, and we're going to discuss if Zion should continue to play at Duke the rest of the year and risk everything, or should he come back and finish off what he started with his teammates and try to help Duke get a national championship. We're also going to discuss if athletes of Zion level, the level of athletic ability where you know he's pretty much a walking $100 million man already, should he even go and play college basketball to risk his career? With that said, I'm going to let Neely start off with this and give his opinion on it. He's a Duke fan, so this is near and dear to his heart.
Right. Now, with everything with Zion, I mean, like you said, I'm a Duke fan. So being a Duke fan, I want to see him play, obviously. I want him on the team. I want him to, come out there and ignite us and the Cameron crazies and have fun and go wild and all of that. But on the business side of it, I completely would understand if that young man would completely shut it down. He has nothing at all to prove. You have nothing at all, honestly, to gain. At the end of the day, right now, it looks like Zion is going to be the number one pick aside from, Zion sitting out and RJ going on like a super tear and still winning the national championship without Zion playing and jumping them or something like that.
Yeah.
For the most part, we know Zion Williams is going to be taking number one overall. So with that being said, I mean, he really has no incentive to play aside from playing with, his friends, his teammates, his comrades, going out there finishing it off. Like, I was never the student athlete, but I definitely hung out with him between you, Ringo, Jeff, all of y'all. So I couldn't imagine, like, even if you knew, all right, I got a surefire shot that I'm getting, I'm going to go to Florida State or Miami, I got a full ride scholarship, you got hurt your senior year. Y'all had the team that y'all had, and you had time to come back in time to make the last little playoff run, and everybody was telling you, hey, Rodney, I think you should shut it down, man. You might mess up the scholarship. At the end of the day, I think every single one of y'all would have still played. Wanting to ride it out, man. We got something good going here, man. I'm going to finish strong with my boys. And that's what I expect Zion to do. I expect him to come back. I expect him to play just for me seeing how cool he is with RJ and Trey and the rest of the guys with Cam. It just seems like it's something different about them all together. Just the athlete that we see in Zion, it seems like he's just that much more of a fun person and teammate to be around. He makes the whole team kind of go outside from the flashy dunks and, stuff like that and explosiveness. He gets some hype, man. Everybody likes the kid. You can just tell the energy that he brings and the love he has for playing basketball. So I expect him to continue to play. But I can't say that it's a smart business move. Like, you hate to see him, come back out there. And it seems like Duke is at least going the right manner. They're not rushing him out there, trying to get him out there fast. I think if he does play, he'll definitely be fully healthy. But you hate to see him come back out there. And even if it's some kind of, major with the knee and they're downplaying and he comes back out there and retweak it, you hate to see that happen. And then, he takes a plunge or his NBA career is completely over in jeopardy. I'm sure he has probably some type of insurance policy to get him some type of dollars. But that'll be completely different from, like you said, we look at the contracts we're starting to see in the NBA. Like some of these Supermax deals, like, with Zion, his marketability, if he's half the player, really we expected him to be, he'll make $500 million over the next 10 to 15 years, more than likely. We're getting a couple of Supermax deals and endorsements and things like that. So, just the common sense world, I guess, or the business mind would say, if there's a chance that you playing is lowering the reward you might get later on, then I would say don't play. I mean, that there's,
Absolutely.
you know, it doesn't really make sense, I guess, to play. But passion is definitely a brainless thing. You know, he's passionate about basketball, passionate about his players, already passionate about Duke in his first year.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think, and that's where I wish that the pay for play was kind of there. I mean, if they were paying these players something, you know, and he at least feels like, you know what, I'm gonna come back. I got a couple of game checks. I can at least get, you know, $50,000 a night. I'm filling out seats. They selling #1 jerseys left and right.
Yep.
If he knew he was at least coming back and getting some paychecks to play as well, you know, you had some other incentive other than, you know, I just want to do this for my boys, it would make sense. But I mean, if I'm his dad, you know, and I'm sitting at home with him and we're talking this out, more than likely I'm trying to get him to lean towards, hey son, we're gonna go ahead and shut it down. You had a nice run, it was fun, but you know, as far as on the basketball court, your college experience should be over. He's a grown man at this point. You can't make him not do it, but that would be my advice to him. You know, father to son.
Absolutely. And like you said, I think Zion should, and his family should make that decision. I don't think Duke should make that decision for Zion or pressure him. And, you know, we had a few people out there that was experts or analysts on these those big networks like TNT and FS1 and ESPN that had some opinions. I'm going to play a couple of audios and then I'm going to give my opinion on this topic.
Well, let me say this. Number one, I hate the people, and I don't like using the word, I hate the people who are trying to talk about Nike. Yes, I'm on Nike's payroll. We don't have no problem with our shoes. We have had the best shoes ever. This was a fluke thing, or our shoes would do that all the time. You know, the rumor now is he's been playing the same pair of basketball shoes all year. You don't do that. I used to switch up every week. I know Shaq, we talked about it. I know Michael Jordan, they played in new shoes every game. I would play a week and that was it. But I trust Nike shoes. That being said, when did we ever get to the point where all people care about is money? Shaq played college for 2 years. Three. Kenny played for 4. I played for 3. Michael Jordan played for 3. Tim Duncan played for 4. David Robinson played for 4. Some of the greatest players ever. Wilt Chamberlain, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson played. When we get to the point where you got clowns on television saying, oh, don't play. That's what you do, Ernie. That's what we do. We play basketball.
Okay, that was Charles Barkley with his opinion, and he was on the side of Duke and the people that say that Zion should continue to play, even though he's risking everything. Now, here's an opinion from the other side from Chris Bouchard.
I want to know more about the severity. You know, I got to hear more. And if I'm him and his family, I'm also getting a second opinion. You know, I think you should. I mean, we know how important this kid is in his future. Get a second opinion. If it's just a mild sprain, it's not going to hinder him. It's not going to slow him down at all. I'm fine with him playing. But if he wants to shut it down, if it's remotely serious and hinders him in any way, and if it's you can go play, you're not going to further injure it, but it's still bothering him a little, I would sit.
I just don't know when we've gotten to this place of shut it down because you could.
So we heard from Charles Barkley. We heard from Chris Bouchard. I think Skip Bayless was on the side also of he shouldn't play again to risk it. Charles Barkley said, when have we come to a point where all we care about is money? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard anyone say. Because this guy, we don't know what this guy family is going through. We don't know how he can change the fortune and the lives of his nieces and nephews and family members where he can bring generational wealth to his family. Right. And why wouldn't he do that in a society in the United States where black wealth and white wealth, the gap has grown since World War II? Right. It's just ridiculous now. It's like, you know, the average white family has over $100,000 in savings, and the average black family has less than like $500 in savings. Right. And that's what and that's what we're looking at here is that we have people like Charles Barkley, who is an African American man on TV, telling this guy to risk his life for a college team that sold tickets. Right. The day of the game when he was hurt against North Carolina, averaging $2,600 a ticket. The highest ticket went for $10,000.
80% of the people came to see him.
And 80% of people came to see him. And ESPN is paying Duke a lot of money to show those games this year on ESPN Plus and ESPN, as well as Zion jersey is selling out like crazy. And this kid isn't making $1. And you know, people like to holler, well, he has a scholarship. For athletes of Zion level, no, that's not enough. This guy, I think, should sit out the rest of the year. That's my opinion. Whether he's somewhat hurt, whether he's mildly hurt, whether he's severely hurt, I don't give a damn what kind of hurt. He should sit out the rest of the year. That was too close of a call. He's in a position where Nike is ready to give him anywhere from $60 to $80 million right out of college as soon as his college season is over and he give up his amateur status. And you have the NBA, who at this point, a number one pick, signs a guaranteed $35 to $38 million contract. So why would this kid who has $100 million or so dollars waiting on him not go out, not sit down and say, hey, you know what? I played enough games. I risk everything for this. And I'm going to go ahead and just work on, make sure my knee is 100% right and make sure I get ready for the NBA draft so I can go ahead and get that money for my family. That's what I think he should do. And I agree. Duke is a great organization. Duke is an organization that helped develop him, and no doubt. But at the same time, man, this kid is unbelievable. He's one of those generational athletes like a LeBron James, like a Michael Jordan, like a Shaquille O'Neal, where they're freaks of nature and they come around every 25 or so years. He should sit down, get the money, make sure his family is secured. He'll get all his glory in the NBA. Don't risk it. Like Skip Bayless pointed out, and I don't agree with Skip Bayless often, but he pointed out how Kenyon Martin tore his knee up. Yeah, he still got drafted first overall off pure potential, but his endorsement deals didn't come through like they were supposed to. Then he talked about the kid we were just talking about off the podcast, Porter. Michael Porter. Michael Porter Jr. was projected to be a first overall pick coming into last year's college season. The first week of the season, hurt his back. Tried to rush back halfway through the season because he had dropped due to not being able to play. So he wanted to rush back, try to prove himself, and hurt himself severely again. Dropped to the 14th pick overall. Didn't get a shoe deal, only got a merch deal. A merch deal is they only give you merch. They don't give you any money. Right. And people have to understand that. So when they see these athletes sign with Nike, only a few athletes get contracts like $2-3 million a year, like a Ben Simmons. Right. Like they were offering Lonzo Ball $2-3 million a year. But like a Kuzma or somebody like that, they don't get those. They get a merch deal where they get any kind of merch they want free. So this kid pretty much would have been a first overall pick. Probably would have signed a $5 to $6 million a year deal with Nike over the first 4 years, and would have signed a $35 to $36 million guaranteed contract. But instead, he's a 14th pick, so he signed, I think it was like a $12 million guaranteed contract. So him rushing back and hurting his back in college, if he came straight out of high school to the NBA, he would have pretty much made $40 to $50 million up front. Right. He actually only ended up making $12 to $13 million in his first contract. Mm-hmm. So he'll get his money in 3 or 4 years once he show everybody, I'm back. My back is completely healthy. I am that number one pick that it should. But why should he have to wait 4 more years to make his $50-60 million? So those are good examples. And I'm with you on this, Neely. And for you being a Duke fan, I thought you were going to be on the fence. Like, well, I want him to play, but I understand if he don't. But you was just like, hey, I want to win a championship with Duke bad. But at the same time, I'm looking out for this guy's future. Right. People like Charles Barkley are dangerous to me.
Yeah, Charles Barkley sounds like an idiot. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, he sounds like an idiot. I mean, Zion, this is his profession, man. Like, this is, I mean, he grew up loving to play basketball, and he loved the game and got passion for the game. He turned it into a profession. That's how this man is going to pay bills. That's how he's going to feed himself. You don't go out and risk your profession because you love the game that much. Like, he's saying, like, when did it become about money? The second that he found out I'm one of the best in the world to do this. Yes. And I'm going to maximize this potential. Yes. Just like anybody else that's out there, if I can be the best commentator ever, Charles Barkley, if you feel like you are a very good commentator, then Why don't you say, you know what, I don't need the dollars for it. I just love getting up here talking, shooting the shit with Shaq. You know, this shit is fun to me. I'm going to donate my checks. Or y'all don't even got to give me no money. I just love to do this. Don't nobody do that. That's that man's profession. That's what he's going to do. That's what's going to pay bills for him. Again, if he makes the decision as a kid, I completely understand if he's going to play. Honestly, I expect him to play. He's an 18, 19-year-old kid, impressionable, wants to play. He ain't going to make a necessarily a business decision unless he has that type of advisement coming from behind him, just saying, hey, you know, we got to throttle you back. I know how bad you want to play, kid, but, you know, it's bigger than this. Like, we looking at, you know, 15, 20 years down the line, not, you know, March Madness in a few weeks. That's not what we talking about. We talking about long term and not short. At the end of the day, you know, the best thing for Zion to do would probably be to shut it down. Like you said, we were going to kind of get into what other athletes should do as far as even coming in and playing college sports at this point. You see how much money that these athletes are bringing in, especially in like a college basketball where they're basically 1-year rentals and they're coming in for, you know, a little bit of time, you know, getting, you know, whatever they're getting for the program and getting out. Zion Williamson, just in money alone, and I'm just going to throw out some numbers, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's brought in, you know, $500 million to Duke this year just in ticket sales and jersey sales and all the notoriety and future recruits coming to Duke, all of that. And, you know, even as high and as great as Duke's education is, it's probably, you know, $50,000 a semester or more, you know, so you can say, you know, Duke paid him $100,000. That's definitely pennies, less than pennies on the dollar in the amount of money that his name and likeness brought into Duke this year. Like, so, you know, I've heard coaches even say, I want to say Boeheim said that they shouldn't pay the players and stuff like that while he has a $2-3 million salary. Like, none of it makes sense. And the reason it affects us so much is because it's always in the industry where it's predominantly black players. It's African-American players that you're telling to come out here and risk your livelihood and entertain and play for these
black
schools,
sports,
you know, yeah, for now. And then, you know, the dream is on the other side. We're going to get you ready, you know, and then we're going to push you up there. You got European players that's playing professionally, making whatever dollars they're making, and then coming in even more ready than a lot of these guys. So, you know, a lot of these athletes, I'm going to start to understand if, you know, they start to go into other avenues as far as, you know, that's why I thought the LeVar Ball thing, you know, seemed like it was so important if he was able to get the right amount of athletes and guidance, and you paying a couple of these guys and you know, you got some things worked out in that manner and they're able to get a percentage of what they're bringing into a company.
Yeah.
You know, then you start to feel more like a shareholder than, you know, a damn piece of property and an asset. So I think that, you know, these athletes are going to have to do what's better for them as individuals and not listen to all the chatter and what people are saying. They need to break those
rules, like you said. They definitely need to break those rules, because I think it's funny how you see and football, I agree with it. Athletes should have to come out and play college football for a year or two.
Yeah.
Because you got to develop your body.
Right.
But a year or two at the most.
Right.
An athlete shouldn't have to stay for 3 years if he don't want to.
And football, physically, it's maybe 1 or 2 athletes that we see that may be able to play.
Exactly. And I think it should be position based.
Exactly.
I think it should be, okay, if you're a quarterback or offense or defensive lineman, you have to stay for 2 years to develop. Right. If you're a running back or a receiver who are taking big hits, and that position in the NFL is the easiest position to transition to.
Yeah.
Even a defensive back, those positions are so easy to transition to when it comes to playing professional football, that those players, especially for a running back who has a short career.
Right.
You think about it, Henry from Alabama, when he was at Alabama, this guy, Nick Saban was running him 40 times a game.
Yeah. Let's go.
That takes years off his football life.
Exactly.
So those are years that he's wasting giving away free carries, free hits on his body. Because those college players hit just as hard as the pro players. So I think like for a running back position and for maybe, you know, like defensive backs and receivers, you should be able to come out in 2 years.
Right.
You should be able to come out, you know, like in a year, I would say.
Yeah.
Not even 2 years, because Julio Jones could play pro football after his first year.
Yeah.
So and those guys take big hits, like I'm saying. So
that's why I feel like they should be able to do that. It shouldn't be a rule that just says you can't. It should be on the team to say, you know what, I physically feel like this kid is good enough, and I would draft him. Just like it's dumb that they can't enter the draft and then go back to school and still play. Like, why I can't go audition basically for this job, and then if I try it out for that job, be like, all right, you like them too much, so now you can't come play with us no more. Like, that's dumb to me too. But,
yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those things where when you see these black athletes, like especially in basketball, like why is it necessary for them to force these guys to go play college basketball for 1 year?
Right.
Why is that even necessary?
Right.
Luka Doncic has been playing pro ball since he was 14.
Right, and it looked like it.
Ricky Rubio had been playing pro ball since he was 14.
Right.
And what LeVar, people shit on LeVar, hate on LeVar, but when I see what LeVar did, LeVar took LaMelo at 16, took him over to Lithuania, let him play 30, 40 games with Lithuania, then put him in the JBA with like 18, 19, 20-year-olds and let him play with them. Then they did a JBA tour where he played 15, 16 games on the JBA tour versus 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds and teams like that.
Right.
And this guy developed his game. He came back over and started high school again, and he looked like a man amongst boys
right.
in this league now because he developed so much playing against these grown men every night, getting pushed around, learning how to play the game. And it's crazy that he's on another level than even some of the top high school players he's playing against, because he playing at a school at Spire where they only play nationally ranked teams.
Yeah.
They don't play, like Dalloway or Chickenville or some school like that. They're playing nationally ranked teams. And so you see this model, and you see kids like Zion who could be in the NBA right now averaging 16, 17 points a game, making $20 million a year, feeding his family and taking care of his family. And these people want to tell you because they want the money in the administration, and these VPs and these CEOs and the SEC network and the ACC want to fatten their pockets. So they want a kid like Zion, like you said, come for 1 year. And this 1 year, he probably made Duke anywhere from $100 million to $200-300 million, something like that, easily. And that's just lowballing it. And it's just ridiculous.
Not to mention the future recruits.
Baseball, you go straight to the pros out of high school. Soccer, go straight to the pros out of high school.
Tennis,
badminton, tennis. In tennis, you go to the pros out of junior high. If you're good enough. So it's one of those things where you look at these predominantly black sports, and in football, they hold these players for 3 years. And I feel especially for running backs, like that is terrible because their earning potential is like is reduced to a 6 to 8 year window. Right. It's not like it used to be where you had this 12-year window as a running back in the past. Now it's reduced to a 6 to 8 year window, and they recycling these running backs. And running backs can't even make over $8 million a year. If I'm a running back, I'm not going to go to college and run the ball 25 times a game just to win and save in a national championship.
Exactly. I wasted $8 million worth of hits basically on my body. Like, why don't they work out something where maybe the players can still be drafted in the NBA and then still go play in the college? So this NBA team going to pay you, but you choose which college you're going to play for to train until you come up to the next year, whatever, however they're going to do it. But so in some way, with the amount of money that you're making off of the talent and the entertainment of these individual players, in most cases, they definitely need to get paid from it. Like that, you can show direct correlation to the spikes in the amount of money that these players are getting paid. Like all the players that we can think of that are kind of real good in the NBA, or that you can think of that were real good in college, or you can think of all predominantly great programs. You can think of the Dukes and the Kentuckys and the North Carolinas, and all of those programs are great. And they had great players that came through there and provided a lot of funding for them to be able to do everything on their way up.
Absolutely. And that and basic of this topic, especially the second part of this topic, is should these college players of Zion level, that's what we're talking about, not just any college players, because a lot of people point out like, well, Russell Westbrook went to college for 3 years. He needed 3 years of college.
Right.
Who else? Let's say Josh Hart went to college for 4 years. He needed 4 years of college. Zion didn't need a half a day of college.
Right.
LeBron didn't need a half a day of college.
Right.
And these guys having to go to college and they're not going to get a degree. Right. Because that's what they're supposed to be, student athletes, student first. So if you're supposed to be a student athlete and that's what you're there to do, is to graduate and play sports, and you know you're not going to do that, then why are you forcing these kids to go? Why are you forcing running backs to take 30, 40 hits a game for 3 years, and then they lose 3 years of potential earnings in the NFL?
Right.
Because their body never going to recover from them hits.
Right. Not to mention the long-term effects that you're going to have on your body just in general from playing that contact sport.
You know, one thing I like Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons stopped going to school after the semester when the basketball season was almost over. Yeah. And if you watch his documentary on Showtime, Ben Simmons actually said that. He said, you know, they were pointing out like, well, he's not going to school and he's not coming to class. And Ben told it, they called his mother and his father down. He told his mother and his father and one of the school administrators, he was like, why do I have to go to school?
Right.
I'm going to the NBA.
Yeah.
I'm about to sign a $40 million contract with Nike and a $35 million contract with whoever drafted me.
Right. And ain't really nothing about to stop that.
He said, why do I have to go to class?
Yeah.
He said, I don't care about that. I know some people going to listen to this and say, well, you setting a bad example. No, I'm setting the right example. Because all of us go to college so we can earn more money.
Right.
If they told people if you became a certified welder, you could make $600,000 a year out of high school, a lot of us wouldn't be going to college.
Right. Not to mention the amount of people that go to college, like myself in general, that get a degree and are not currently using that degree.
Exactly.
So I'm basically just went in my case and just funnel money into the college system. In Zion's case, he's giving them money basically because he's playing, but he's not getting money that they're getting from him. Obviously, the University of Arkansas didn't get money from me just being there, but they're capitalizing off of him. So
definitely, Yes, absolutely. And then a lot of those players just go to school and don't even do anything. Just go to the classes. They just let the tutors do the work. So with these athletes, that's Ben Simmons level, Zion Williams level, even R.J. Barrett level.
Right. Yeah.
Allow these kids to go to the pros and make money. And if they want to learn more after they've earned their money in the pros and they've secured their family for a generation or two, then they could go back on their own and learn how to read and take art classes where they learn about Giza and Picasso and
commercials
and shit that I learned. Yeah,
it ain't too late to go back to college. Hey,
you can always go back. You can go back and take those classes. But these kids are there for a reason. We go to school to be able to earn a good living. When you go to college because you don't want to go and work for somebody making minimum wage most of your life.
Right.
You either go to college or you go and get you a trade. You either go learn how to become a welder, a commercial electrician, a mechanic, some kind of trade, plumber, anything.
Right.
You go to college to get a degree so you could go in the field and become a corporate exec, a corporate manager, whatever you're trying to do. You're trying to earn money. That's the sole reason. So if this kid is a basketball player, football player, and he's eligible to go to the pros out of high school and he has the ability to go and sign a contract, go ahead and do it. And this is one thing, this is the last thing I'll say about this is I don't like to put race on everything, but I'm going to throw a little race. I'm going to sprinkle a little racism in here as far as when it comes to the administrator and majority of them being older white men who are 50, 60, and 70 who come from a place where, like minorities weren't on the same level with them. And when you look at the way these administrators treated these players, and I'll give you an example. If you're a player out of high school, and you feel like, oh, I'm ready for the draft, and you put yourself in the draft and you get an agent and nobody draft you, do you know that they would make you ineligible for college?
Right.
And that's the bullshit I'm talking about.
Right.
Why not allow, and then you would say, Well, that kid made a bad decision, and he made a bad decision, and we trying to protect the kids from making that bad decision. You know how you can protect that kid from that bad decision? Delete that dumbass rule.
Exactly.
If you're a kid out of high school and you go to the NBA combine and you don't get drafted, guess what? If you never played college ball, you could come back to college if you still got eligibility.
Yeah.
Maybe take a year eligibility from them. Maybe tell them like, okay, you went and you tried, you could come back and you got 3 years of eligibility left.
Right.
If you a junior and you go into the draft, no, if you're a sophomore and you enter the draft and you don't get drafted, you could come back and you got 1 year left instead of 2. Do something like that.
Right.
But they're not trying to help these black athletes. They're trying to force their hands to come to the NCAA so they can make money.
Yeah.
Because if all these players go to the NBA, all the top players, like let's say for Zion and go, and these players don't go, then guess what? You stuck with a bunch of average players playing ball, and it doesn't look the same.
Yeah. College sports,
you're not seeing guys out there doing reverse 360s
exactly.
between the legs like Zion.
College sports would tank.
Exactly.
Definitely basketball. Like you said, in NCAA football, a lot of them would still have to play, so you get to see some of that entertainment. And football is kind of football. People going to want to see football. But college basketball would go under.
Football, I hate the 3-year rule. I feel like if you do it, you should do it where running backs, receivers, defensive backs.
Yeah.
I'm okay with you coming out after 1 year.
Yeah.
If you try to go to them, because you could play those positions in the NFL after 1 year. Offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, quarterbacks, where you take more of an inside pounding where it's more man on man. Yeah. When you look at a defensive line, offensive line, there's more man on man. You look at linebackers, you stepping up in the hole and you taking on a 285 pound, 6'4" offensive lineman. Yeah. So you might need that extra year to develop, but not 3.
Right.
You can make a decision after 2.
Right. Yeah, we've seen plenty of athletes that we saw in college and, watching them through their sophomore year, knowing that they could be doing that in the NFL. And at the very least, let the NFL train them. I'm pretty sure NFL training staffs and things like that are more prepared and more equipped to make them an NFL player than the NCAA teams are. Aside from the elite programs, the Alabamas and the LSUs, and I'm sure their training regimens are just as good as some of the NFLs. But some of those lower end schools, even some of the higher end schools that just don't have the money, Oklahoma States and places like that where kids are still playing, and I'm pretty sure that they could get better training if there was a smaller NFL league that they could go to.
Exactly. So with that said, I think we covered this topic pretty well. I think both of us agree that Zion should not play another minute with Duke if it was our kid or somebody in our family, somebody that we had a relationship with that we could help them make that decision. We would tell them to secure your future first and play basketball in the NBA when you're getting paid to do it, because you do it at such a high level. Yeah. I think we both agree also that the NCAA should do more to allow these kids to go and earn a living sooner rather than later, and putting their career at risk. If you think about it, a guy I like to point at, and I'm sad about his career because I really like this guy, was Marcus Lattimore, if I'm not mistaken, it was his name, that played with South Carolina. Yeah. He's a running back, and his sophomore year, he killed it as a freshman. Rushed for like 1,600 yards for South Carolina, had like 15, 16, 17 touchdowns, something like that. High number of touchdowns, and he was SEC Rookie of the Year, all SEC team, and everybody's projected him to be a top 10 running back pick, the first one in a long time. Right. And this kid ended up breaking his leg. Not breaking his leg, but completely tearing his ACL and MCL, if I'm not mistaken, 1 year, his sophomore year, halfway through the season. Worked his way back, came back the next year, and was playing good again, and tore it up again at the end of the season. And couldn't enter the draft early, had to wait a year, enter the draft. Got drafted in the 3rd or 4th round by San Francisco. And when he went out, sat out a year, tried to let his knee get healthy, and went out and just couldn't play the same. And he had to make a decision. I think he had an insurance policy that paid him like $3 million if he didn't play after the age of 25 or something like that. Yeah. So he was at the point where he was 24 years old. He could have still tried to play in the NFL. He could have gave it another go. He could have given it another go, but he decided, like, hey, I'm just going to take this $3 million and just try to secure my future and walk away. This kid walked away from the game. Potential first top 10 pick. Potential career earnings of $40 to $60 million gone down the drain because after his freshman year in which he dominated, could not go to the pros, could not go and secure that living. So now he's, and $3 million is nothing to sneeze at.
Right.
I wish I would have got $3 million, but for somebody with the potential to earn 50 to $60 million for his family and secure his family for a generation or two, that's huge. That's a huge loss for that family. So the worst thing about it, and this is how crazy the NCAA is. This kid ended his pro career, retired at the age of 24. And at the school where he tore his knee up twice trying to help them win an SEC championship and a national championship, the coach hired him as a defensive back assistant coach so the kid could earn some money, pay him a nice salary, maybe $150,000, $160,000 a year. And the NCAA ruled that since he played at that school, he could not earn money there. He could not go there and earn money. So they had to let him go because the NCAA, after he had already served his time, retired from the NFL, told him he could not work at that school.
That's crazy.
And that is a horror story.
Right.
That's not a sympathy story. That is a fucking horror story for this kid who lost $50-60 million playing at this school.
Yeah.
So with that said, great topic, nearly great points. I think we had some strong opinions here. Hope you guys enjoy it. If you listen to this podcast, you listen to this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps with the visibility. It also allows us to alert you whenever we submit a new episode or submit a new clip or interview. So make sure you go to YouTube, log in, subscribe to the channel, support us. We appreciate it. We're trying to build it so we can bring you factual sports knowledge versus opinion, emotional-based sports knowledge. Thank you for listening to the PvR Sports Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch new episodes and PvR clips. Like our Facebook page and share with your friends if you enjoyed this podcast. As we say in the South, catch you later.